let's welcome in Zack Meisel from The Athletic, and more importantly, a lover of unique random sports jerseys, which we have to talk to you about.
I know, I love that,
captains.
man.
That is one of the coolest things in the world. Zack, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us today.
What's going on, fellas? How are you?
Zack, we have to start with your reaction to GM Bull's trade proposal. Do you like it?
I like him talking about this than trying to make a case for trading for Shohei Ohtani, which I feel like he always is.
Well, I understand that's ridiculous. We were having some fun with that, but go ahead. Yeah.
It's
you don't
the
like
dead
this
week
trade?
of the sports calendar. It's like a last resort to me. I think if there's a way you can not ruin, well, I wouldn't ruin, but you don't want to hurt. If you're keeping Bieber, you have to add. And this trade to me that you're proposing is going to hurt you a little bit on the pitching side, and you hope help you offensively. Like I need more of a slam dunk. I'd rather find a team that's willing to take on prospects. And maybe St. Louis is that team, and they have a bunch of outfielders they can deal, but I don't know. He moves the needle a little bit.
The guy finished top 10 in the MVP 2 years ago. I know he's had some issues the last 2 years, but like the only guy you'd rather have from St. Louis to me in the outfield is Jordan Walker. They're not trading him. So, who else would you trade for there?
I'm not saying I hate it. I'm just saying I would look at a lot of other possibilities and then circle back to that one if I needed to at the end. Because it probably helps you a little bit, but you're weighing this year and next year and the year after. And, you're not going to have Bieber very long, even if you keep him this season. So what does your pitching look like next year if you make the trade you're talking about and you trade Bieber this winter? I don't know. I need to know if McKenzie's having Tommy John surgery at some point.
That's a big part of it, sure.
Yeah. Zack, that's what I was going to ask you. My comfort level with this trade, the 1-for-1, my comfort level with this trade would be much higher if you told me that in early August, McKenzie's going to come back and he's going to be Triston McKenzie. But at this point, and I don't know if it's just my cynicism, but at this point, I'm looking at McKenzie as offering nothing to this club this year and thinking he's going to need Tommy John. Talk me out of that position, if you can.
I can't. I mean, the only thing I can say is he sounds cautiously optimistic that this is the right move, that he feels better right now. But even he said, until you actually get back to throwing, you have no idea. And I think it's this week coming up that he said was the key week where you pick up a baseball and you either know or you don't whether you're going to be able to recover or not. So it's tough. I think you just look at his return. If he does return this season, it's a bonus, but it's not going to be, you're not going to lean on him for 7 strong innings. It's going to be babying him in September. So it's tough. I just their pitching depth. There's a thin line between having a lot of it and having not enough of it. And they're straddling that right now.
But Zack, here's my frustration is that the Guardians have this amazing track record of developing pitchers. So rely on that. They can't develop hitters. All these young hitters come up and flop, except, Yandy Diaz, who's great in Tampa Bay and has become an all-star. I would love to have him on this roster. What are these, Gabriel Arias is showing, again, some of these guys, I'm not writing them off. Let me make it very clear. But so far, most of these young hitters have shown very little. Quan has regressed. He's got no power. Will Brennan has been okay. He's fine, but nothing special. Bo Naylor's shown very little offensively. Again, I understand it's way early. Arias has shown nothing. Freeman, I'm just... what's his name? Valera's can't hit in AAA right now. He's batting like $150. So we've heard about all these prospects. They can't trade any of them, and the lineup sucks. And by the way, the great Miles Straw defense hasn't been that great this year. He's 17th in defensive runs saved at center field. So he ain't even winning a Gold Glove this year. And he's the worst hitter in baseball. The worst. Anything I say unfair there, Zack?
No, I like when you get on a roll.
I just let him go.
I think the key to their second half is Josh Bell, and that's not enough either. That's, if he does what you paid him to do, you have a nice middle of the order, but you still have a weak top of the order and bottom of the order. So they need Josh Bell, and they need two outfielders, really. So you have to look at this, though, as, there's this season, but you don't have immediate obvious answers going into next year either. No. And that's why I think it's imperative that they're aggressive on the trade market the next 2 weeks, because you can trade Bieber and maybe get an outfielder that way, or you could trade him for prospects. But I think you have to deal something from within, this glut of middle infielders, pitchers in the lower levels, whatever you have to do to address the offense for this year and next season. Because you can't just assume George Valera is going to come up be your everyday right fielder next year.
Right.
You don't know if that's going to work. So I'm with you. They need a lot of help. They have to figure out ways to get better in the immediacy and next year and beyond. And you have to keep developing pitching. And the reason they're in contention, this is why, I understand the need to have things to talk about. But the Ohtani talk is so funny to me. And people say, trade for him. You got to go for it. I get it. One chance, you have to do it. Do you realize you'd be trading Bibee, Williams, the guys who got you here, who you're going to lean on to get you through?
To
that's
rent
crazy.
a player.
I get it.
To rent a player.
They're not trading them anyway, so it doesn't matter. They're not trading.
Well, you say that today, though, but
I can't see it.
When you look at the schedule, Zach, when you look at where the Angels are and with Trout's injury now,
they're done. I
know Artie Moreno says we're keeping him. But if they start the post-All-Star part of the season 2-7, and they've got a very difficult schedule, if they start 2-7 and suddenly they look up and they're double digits out of the wild card, you're dumb if you don't trade them at that point.
You can't. The Guardians have nothing of value really in trade besides Gavin Williams and Bibee. They don't have much. Right now, and the Angels wouldn't want Shane Bieber, but Zach, in terms of trading Shane Bieber, what is his trade value now? Because teams are watching. First of all, he's been lousy lately. But even when he was pitching okay earlier in the year, there was no level of dominance whatsoever. He's not an ace anymore. I mean, maybe he will be again someday. I doubt it. But he's not right now. And I don't think anybody's looking at him that way.
Yeah, the market's weird because I think different teams are going to want different things. You look at a team like Baltimore, they've been one of the best teams in baseball all season. They've got such a young team, a dynamic offense. They need starting pitching badly. They've lost 100-plus games, it seems like, for a decade, right? So how aggressive are they going to be? Are they going to want to make that move to get the best pitcher on the market? Is that pitcher Bieber? Do they want a guy who's got multiple years of control? Because, Marcus Stroman could be out there, Lucas Giolito, but those guys don't have the extra year of control like Bieber does. So I think it just depends on what you want. And, Baltimore could be very different than a team like the Yankees or the Rays or the Braves. Some teams need short-term patches, and other teams might be looking at multiple years here. So it's why this is so tricky, because everyone wants to debate whether they should trade him, whether it's worth trading him. But the main thing and the information that we're missing is what these teams would offer. And I think you could get vastly different returns from, say, Baltimore and Texas than you would from the Braves or, the Phillies, something like that.
Right. You're right, and obviously the Orioles are a fascinating team because they've got all these awesome young hitters they've just brought up, and their best hitting prospect, what's his name, Jackson Holiday, just got called up to double, but they're not trading him. Are they trading the kid they just called up? I can't think of the middle infielder they just called up. They got Gunnar Henderson, they got Rushman, they got all these. Would they trade any of those guys?
That's the thing. They have 5 outfielders who are either crushing it in the majors or at AAA with 950 OPS. Yeah. You would think they'd have to move somebody, but if you're them, you're probably thinking, can't we get more than just Shane Bieber, who's throwing 91 and doesn't have the curveball anymore? I don't know. So I wonder how much desperation there is. You get a team that sees, hey, we actually have a legit shot at this. I mean, the American League's wide open. Yep. So you wonder if a team is thinking, this just might be the time to strike. But then if you're the Guardians too, it's well, do you see what Bieber can give you? Do you make additions a different way to try to equip you with the best roster possible this year and then hope he rebuilds some value and trade him this winter? There's a million factors going into this, and it's a really tricky spot to be. It would be. I talked to some people in the organization who were this would all be a lot easier if the AL Central was like any other division, and I think the decision would be made for them.
Yeah.
You know, Zach, I was floating something out there the other day, and I think Jason Lloyd was talking about it too. And he said he kind of warmed up to the idea. I don't think that the Guardians are going to actually, you know, we talk about Williams, Bybee, and Allen. I don't think that they're going to have the wherewithal, the cap, or just even the resources to sign all three of those guys. If a Guardians pitcher reaches, I would say, superstar status or wins it, a Cy Young award or is really a top arm, after the initial 6 years or so of control, I don't ever think that they're going to re-sign someone. I think, is it crazy to think that they have a timetable where it's like, our job is to develop these guys, find them, get the best 6 years out of them, and then that way, if they fall off down the line, have to have Tommy John surgery, whatever the case may be, let the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Angels or somebody deal with it after that. But we'll continue to mind the young guys.
Garrett, I was just writing about this before I joined you guys, and I was thinking back to Bieber's debut 5 years ago. I think it was his 23rd birthday.
Crazy.
At the end of May. It seems like yesterday. And in that time, I mean, he came up and he was the rookie on a rotation that was literally one of the best we've seen in the last half century. You know, you had Kluber at the peak of his powers. Bauer was a Cy Young candidate. Clevenger had burst on the scene. Carrasco was dominant. Then you had Bieber learning from these guys. And then the next year is the All-Star Game MVP, finishes fourth in the Cy Young voting. The year after that, he's the best pitcher in the universe. And then he has an arm injury. And then last year he reinvented himself and was still good. And now he might be gone. Like it happens quick. That cycle is just so fast. And you think back to, you know, the pitchers that they've had in the last decade. And you're right. You know, you make those initial offers. They had contract negotiations with Bieber after that All-Star season in 2019, and they didn't amount to much, clearly. And that's pretty much been it. You know, they haven't had extensive talks with him the last couple of years because both sides knew where they stood. You know, when they signed Kluber to an extension, he kind of came out of nowhere. He was a late bloomer, and then he won the Cy Young.
Yeah.
And they signed him to a long-term deal, but he still had a ton of control left, so it was really below market. And they knew that, you know, he gets to that last year or two and you'd be shopping him because that's how they operate. So I really think the instant, when you're a pitcher, the instant you make your debut with this organization, the clock's ticking toward your departure.
Yeah,
And it goes really fast. And the way that they're able to make it work is they keep developing guys and they draft guys that they know they can develop. And that allows you to do this so you can replenish the farm system through trades. That's how you can get hitters since you can't develop them well yourself. And that's how they've been able to sustain this. It's just, it makes the timing so hard because you have to get these guys at the peak of their powers at the right time when you do have hitters to complement them. And I think that's kind of the struggle that they're in right now.
You know, Zach, you talk about, I get what you're saying. I think you said, you know, with Tyler O'Neill, for example, is that enough, right? They still have a long way to go. But what if you traded for Tyler O'Neill, right? You get a year and a half with him. Then you go to the Cubs and you go get Cody Bellinger. It's a rental, so you're not giving up that much. You know, he's not the player he once was, but he's bounced back. He missed a couple of weeks, but he's been pretty good for the Cubs this year. So you get, and now all of a sudden your outfield, you put Straw to the bench, you put Kwan in center, and you got much better hitting, and Bellinger and O'Neill are both good fielders too. Or you could play Bellinger at first. You know, that probably won't happen because you stuck with Bell. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, if they can't just get one elite hitter, which is going to be almost impossible to do, make a few trades to get upgrades to better hitters. Even if they're short-term guys, that's fine because you don't have to give up a Williams or a Bybee to get those guys. What do you think?
You're in too many fantasy leagues, Bull.
I'm only in one.
I told you.
I'm only in one. I do a lot of football.
No, you know what? And actually, I don't know if it's going to pan out this way.
Yeah.
And this is so random, but do you remember the year after the Cavs lost to the Spurs in the finals? At the trade, like 5 minutes before the trade deadline in 2008, they swung some like 4-team, 11-player deal, and they added Wally Zerbiak and Delonte West and a bunch of other guys. And that trade, like they had a lot to sort out after that. They made that deal, and that season was kind of clunky after that because it was just incorporating a lot of new players. but it set them up for the future. Those were that was a key deal for 2009, 2010. I'm wondering if there's going to be, and this is kind of what you're talking about, but if you make one move, it might necessitate another move. You can't, like you said, you trade for Tyler O'Neill. Okay, you're incrementally better offensively and incrementally worse on the pitching staff. But yeah, if you go add Bellinger too, like that certainly makes your lineup more formidable. And the main point here is, like, this playoff berth is sitting there for you on a silver platter.
That's right.
Great. Winning the division, I don't think anyone's going to get excited about hanging that banner next season. But I think what you want to do is, because you're resigned to the fact that you have to get hot at the right time. So how can you give yourself the best chance to get hot? It's to minimize the number of holes in your lineup. It's to make sure you have at least 3 starting pitchers you can trust in a playoff series. And it's to make sure your bullpen is pitching the way it's pitched over the last month or so. If you can do those things, you actually have a chance this year. Can you do those things without hurting your chances next year and the year after, when you actually should be a better team? That's the question they have to answer.
Yeah.
August 1st, is Shane Bieber on the Guardians or somewhere else, in your opinion?
I've changed my answer on this by the hour. I'm going to say or by the minute. I'll say he's here, but I'm truly 50-50 at this point, and I feel like every day I hear something or think of something new that maybe changes my answer at that.
All right, one more question, then Mikey's got something for you. We haven't really entertained this thought because it was just a foregone conclusion that Bieber was absolutely out the door. But because of his struggles and because of his diminished trade value, is there any whisper at all of perhaps going back to negotiating with Bieber on a long-term contract? He has to be thinking that his value on the free agent market, once it happens, is going to be less. Maybe the Guardians roll the dice and think this is a temporary hiccup. Let's face it, we kicked dirt on Justin Verlander when he was 10 years older than Bieber is right now, and he had a revival.
Sabathia did too.
Sabathia as well. Is it possible that is that ship completely sailed?
I think so. I don't even think they really talked this spring on a deal, which was surprising to me. The big thing is, so his agent, he's part of Drew Rosenhaus's baseball wing, and
right.
He's kind of their star player, and it's been like a foregone conclusion that he was going to head to free agency and sign some big contract. And the thing with him is that I don't know what the motivation is to re-sign here before at least testing the waters. He's been a guy who's bet on himself, and he's also in line to make a lot of money in arbitration next season anyway. I mean, he's probably going to make 13 to 15 million. So it's not like he's desperate. And I just think when you have more teams interested in you, you find some team that thinks they can fix you, you find some team that's just desperate for starting pitching, he could still get a pretty hefty free agent contract, even if it's not anywhere near what we thought it would be a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think the number is at least ticking down, and
Sure.
So maybe it would be in his benefit to talk to Cleveland about a deal, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Mikey has a question for you.
Yeah, Zach, when you came on preseason, I asked about Will Brennan's chances to win MVP. And I'll admit, because he doesn't pitch, I guess he probably won't beat Shohei Ohtani in the AL MVP race this year. But I do have a question. We all know what happened to Will Brennan. His comeback story this year has been unprecedented and amazing. No player has ever hit a higher batting average in the game immediately following the death of a bird due to a ball he hit than Will Brennan. So what do you think Will Brennan's chances of winning the AL Comeback Player of the Year are this year for his truly heroic performance, fighting off PETA, fighting off birds of aviation of all kinds, and coming back the next day with a phenomenal 3-for-3 performance?
Great question.
Thank you.
He's had a lot to deal with, right? The adversity he's gone through has been really impressive. Have you had him on since he killed the bird?
Yeah, he's our guy.
No, not since
he
the
hit
bird
the bird,
incident.
though.
Yeah, not since the bird incident.
You know, he gets pretty emotional talking about it. I know it was, a lot of mixed emotions going through something like that, but I don't know. He's such a good dude, and
Really
is so down to earth, and I think easy to root for. He's one of those guys too, where if this team was rebuilding I think you just let him play and you let him take his lumps every single day for a year or two, because you see the skill set and like he doesn't strike out a lot. He makes a ton of contact. Like I think he's going to be a good hitter. It's just hard when you're in contention and you expect a lot out of this team. You know, I do think if they do make an upgrade, make a trade for an outfielder, I do wonder if he loses some playing time, or, you know, maybe he'll run into another bird and he'll take off.
Zach, I've got some over-unders
That was a
for
good pun,
you.
by the way.
Take
Real
off.
quick,
I
that
like
was a
that.
really good pun, Zach.
I got some over-unders for you. You ready?
Sure.
Over under 85.5 wins for the Guardians.
I'll say over, but not by much.
Over under a 389.5 batting average for Luis Arraez.
Under.
389? Jeez.
389.5.
The fact that that's a legitimate question is nuts.
It's
I'll say
insane.
under.
You taking under?
He's going to hit a spell.
I mean, he dropped from 400 to 380 at one
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
Over under $59.5 million per year on Ohtani's contract.
You know, I meant to look this up today. Was wondering if you took how many players on the top of Cleveland's payroll would you need to add together to equal what he'll earn in free agency?
Yeah.
18,
You know,
Oh, my
that's
God.
20.
right. And the question I have about Ohtani is, if you're in this bidding war, right? You know, let's say it's Dodgers versus Yankees versus Mariners, and the bidding war is getting to like 12 years, $600 million. If you're willing to spend $600 million, why not spend $700 million?
Why not spend
If
$1
you're willing to
billion?
spend
Right.
$700 million, why
That's
not?
Zach, that's why I think it's going to go to 750.
The guy's worth
total.
every penny.
He's two superstars in one contract.
Right. And he brings in a market in addition
market.
from that
Yeah,
perspective.
Seattle, I think, could monetize his
I just
value
hope he
more
doesn't
than
end up
anyone.
with either of the New York teams. I mean, obviously, selfishly, I'd like him to end up on the Cubs, but I don't see it. But I hope he stays on the West Coast. I don't want him to go to either New York team. I would hate that. That would be
I'd
terrible.
love to see him on the East Coast, though, so we can watch him at a normal time
I
every night.
agree. Yeah, we get to see more of his. But I'd like to see him stay in the American League, not in our division, but I'd like to see him East Coast American League so we can watch him more and appreciate him more, because he's the face of the game, and he's going to break the bank.
Final over-under. Over-under 1.5 articles written by Jason Lloyd in the next 6 weeks.
Under.
Oh, under.
Wait, Bull, you forgot the most important actual guard. Over under 99.5 home runs for the Guardians as a team.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, too.
Thank you, Bull.
What are they at right now? I forgot to look.
60 through 90 games.
Jeez.
Will they break triple digits?
I mean, that's pathetic. if
I'll
they don't.
say yes,
It's the most
but I'm
hesitant
hitching
yes
my
yet.
wagon. I'm hitching my wagon to whoever they trade for, and I guess Josh Bell, and that doesn't feel very good.
Yeah.
Well, Jimenez, you'd expect Jimenez to do much better in the second half, too, no? Home runs wise?
I think so. I mean, even Jose could hit for more power.
Yeah.
Naylor, too. I think Naylor's got 10.
Yeah, Naylor's got a ton of ribbies, but not a ton of home runs, which is impressive in a way.
Their lack
but,
of power is really actually
Yeah.
pretty impressive. I mean,
real.
you know, when the Browns went 0-16, you're like, wow, as sucking goes, that was awesome.
Yeah.
They're now at a level that is actually awesome. You look at it and say, how in the hell can they have so few home runs?
The Braves have hit
More in June than they.
the Braves have hit more home runs since the start of June than the Guardians have, including the playoffs, since mid-September of last year.
It's like they're trying not to hit home runs. Like
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we're just going. We're purposely only
They've become
concentrating
great
on
at not hitting.
Yeah, it's
home
impressive.
runs.
Remember,
Sucks.
do you remember when you were playing in the backyard as kids, and like the fence would be really short, so if you hit it over the fence, it was called an out?
Shut up.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
the Guardians would be amazing.
Right.
if that
You
was
are
your
at
model.
my grandmother's house.
That's
We like,
right.
yo, you only
Zach
had
nailed
like,
it.
you had 2 bases, and if you hit it over the fence, there was a dog over there.
Right.
So when you had to go over, it was pretty much game over.
Yeah. That's
So you had 2
Yeah, well,
balls.
Zach, it's like some softball leagues. If after you've hit 2 home runs in an inning, the next one over the fence is a home run. So you're trying not to hit home runs.
Well, it's an out.
It's an out. I mean,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally like I think the Guardians think that that's the
Right.
rules they're playing on. We're not allowed to hit any home runs.
No, can't do it.
Every
Zach,
once in a while they run into one.
Wait,
Thanks,
Zach,
Zach.
before we go, real quick,
Yeah.
what's the best jersey you've seen this year at
Oh,
a
yeah.
Guardians game?
There's always, remember Christian Arroyo I think he played one game for them. Someone sent that in the other day. He was on the team I think it was the COVID year, and then like for 5 minutes in 2021, and he got in one game. I think one at bat.
And somebody has his jersey.
I think it's just for Zack. Zack was at the Lake County Captains game signing autographs, and people love showing you those jerseys. I mean, you've made it a huge thing here.
Yeah, so there was, and the best part is when you see all sports. So that night at the Captains game, I think the winner was a Leon Poe jersey. Remember him on the Caps for like
Leon
20
Poe.
games or
He had
something?
that bad knee.
Somebody actually printed
That's
one
amazing.
Leon Poe.
That's as obscure as it gets.
It is. Zach, you're always great,
Thanks,
man.
man.
Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.